do these outreach programs actually help students in terms of wanting to actually pursue it as a career? Do they come back to you and do they say, oh, I want to do this when I grow up? Have you seen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always kind of get the person who really identifies with something. Well, at least have like one or two of them. Usually take a bachelor. It used to be when it was with a different initiative at McGill. We used to take in 30 students, and that's when I became a part of that camp actually. So when I was in high school, I think I came to the camp in 2007, and it was really that moment where, you know, we got to work with medical students. There was an Indigenous doctor there as well. Her name was Dr. Yojista Horn. She's a family physician, and she was showing us basically how medical students train. You know, very hands-on, showing us.
Right.
They have these they have these dummies, if I remember correctly, where somebody in another room can be controlling their breathing, their readouts on kind of their monitor. And just seeing that, I was really. I already had this idea that I, you know, was very interested in science and health sciences, but that is a moment that I think, you know, looking back, that's where I kind of said, I really want to get involved in this. You know, I think this is great, and it kind of steered me into wanting to come to McGill. And the nice thing about, you know, staying involved with this initiative is I've been able to kind of see students be able to express that interest as well. For example, we have students coming in this year. Who were both participants at this camp actually, and so both of them have expressed, you know, very clearly that they have a goal of, you know, going into health sciences. Both of them are looking to be physicians in different focuses, but it makes me think that, or it reassures me that, you know, this camp is doing something for these students. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
I stay reassured about that, and kind of seeing, you know, that same effect that it had on me as a student is still, you know, impacting students the same way over 10 years like later.
I wanted to know a bit more about your own interest with science. So were you always interested in the health sciences? You said you did physiology. Were you always in what made you choose this area of science?
So I was always kind of a science nerd when I was a kid, in the sense where I thought, you know, learning about the cell was extremely interesting. And so kind of the more general sciences, I was, you know, pretty good at math growing up. I was the type of kid that would get bored in class and play under my seat. And my mother teaches in the school, and so she would kind of walk by and see me doing that. Kind of ask the teacher, what's going on here? But then she'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. Ask me a math question and I answer it while still playing. So kind of came very, very naturally to me as a kid.
Okay.
One of the things that I also, you know, had the kind of that early exposure to was my grandmother is a community health representative. So she would always, you know, she works at our community's health clinic, the health center. And she would always have, you know, just laying around these little pamphlets of like how to identify hypertension, how to treat and how to live with type 2 diabetes and things like that. So I always kind of had these little tidbits of knowledge growing up, and you know, I would ask her questions on it. I was always inquisitive. And kind of that, and in combination with, I think, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I would also answer the question of what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, usually kids, this would be like, I think it was pre-K at the time, kids are usually answering, you know, I want to be a Power Ranger, or, you know, I want to be a truck driver, or whatever. I think I remember, my mom holds this against me. I always said, oh, I want to be a brain surgeon.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if I really understood what a brain surgeon was, maybe at 4 years old. But the kind of that idea of, I think, going the route of health sciences is something that's always kind of been an interest for me at a very, very young age. You know, I can accredit, you know, I used to watch a lot of television as a kid, but I would always be, one of my favorite shows as a kid was The Magic School Bus.
Right.
Having, you know, these really complicated topics kind of brought in a very visual setting, with a very kind of like not simplistic, but you know, very fundamental way of looking at them, really did a good job of kind of getting me interested in all of these fields. With my interest in science now, I guess, definitely, you know, I did my bachelor's in science, and one of my goals, because I would like to, you know, be a physician one day, I'm going to have to go back for more school. And so I have some interesting avenues that I can take. You know, I can go back to school for either a second bachelor's or a master's. I guess one of the things that I'm doing right now, though, is I'm also doing a little bit of research while I work in the position. So doing looking at adherence to tuberculosis medication.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm working with our assistant director at the moment. So kind of getting, you know, these academic applications of like what I've learned while I'm still working too. So I'm definitely it's been a learning curve for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of this has been very independent, but it's been a kind of a good introduction as to what grad studies would look like, for example.
Growing up, did you have any inspirations from the world of STEM itself?
I was growing up, tough to say too. The reason why I say that is because there are so few, because like, with all these issues that I was bringing up before regarding STEM teachings in Indigenous communities, it can be difficult to kind of find these heroes early on. And that's something that we try to do with our camp, is to bring these heroes to like the forefront so that these myself, though, early on, some heroes, I mean, my mother, very much is somebody, she's been an educator since, I could walk. She teaches, Mi'kmaq culture specifically to students, but she always made it about the environment, the land, and kind of, understanding the relationship that we have with the environment around us.
Right.
All of her teachings have kind of been, I've always been kind of shaped and revolved around. And so I very much, always looked up to my mom in that regard. A little bit later on in life, I would have to say some heroes that I kind of get to look up to. There's Dr. Evan Adams, who's, believe he's the BC Health Authority for First Nations and Indigenous people. As a physician himself, been able to meet a number of other Indigenous, medical students and physicians while I've been here in Montreal. And so it's nice to see that, there are people currently doing the work that needs to be done for one, but also are kind of laying that groundwork for, myself as somebody who looks up to me, but also the people who are going to come after myself as well.
Yeah.
Are still working towards these goals.
You mentioned a lot about how Indigenous teachings relate a lot to science.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any other way in which your identity has impacted your career?
Not to focus on the stereotypes, but like I was talking about the selective education, there are a number of issues also in the Indigenous community that don't just academics. There's a lot of health issues in the Indigenous community. We're skyrocketing in rates of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, other comorbidities. And, I've been able to kind of see that growing up, whether it was through speaking with my grandma or getting these lectures kind of from health reps who would visit our schools. It was made very clear that, there are issues that are just not being addressed. And, instead of trying to fix the problem as a whole, it's just been the succession of just slapping band-aids on top of them with, these initiatives or these funding orders. And the problem is not getting better. And one of the things that I think, with where I work now, one of the things I very much pride myself on with being involved with this program is that there's this understanding that, we believe that one of the best ways that you can really help, this issue of, all of these health concerns happening in the Indigenous community is by recruiting more Indigenous healthcare workers, because they can provide that kind of experience. They get the training here and then they return to their community. Maybe they serve the urban Indigenous population. They'll be able to kind of, I think it's really, admirable and also very humbling to think, they'll be able to take this knowledge that they're acquiring, from these institutions, but they're still going to have that lived experience as Indigenous people.
Right.
Back to their communities and be able to, speak to their own people in their own language. And really, because sometimes people can't communicate as clearly in English because it's not their first language. And being able to really indigenize that kind of yeah, indigenize that kind of profession and that way of thinking, I think is really key in, solving the health crisis that a lot of Indigenous communities are suffering from.